happening. You're trying to figure out ultimately what is.
It's still a mystery as to why it took them. Hey everyone, I'm Lauren Conlin. Happy Thursday this week. Hello, Jarrett Ferrantino, my favorite former homicide prosecutor. What's going on?
Not much, Lauren. My favorite investigative journalist.
Oh, wow. I love that. Now I'm your favorite. Okay. All right.
Steph Watts is not going to like that, by the way.
Wait, what's that?
I said Steph Watts is not going to like that.
You know what? You're right. I can
You're
be
tied with Steph. Let's put it that way.
I was going to say Steph kind of got here first, so we'll give him the right of way. Hi to everyone in the chat. Hi, Sinead, Afton, Sal, Jody. We're so happy you're here. I feel like we have a lot to talk about today. Yeah, there's quite a few things on the docket. Hey, backseat juror. I for one was at the courthouse yesterday for Harvey Weinstein's last pretrial hearing before his retrial, which was pretty interesting. I mean, I got to tell you, there was barely any press there. I was very surprised.
Well, I think that the veil has been ripped off Harvey Weinstein. For all intents and purposes, he's on ice for the rest of his life. I mean, not to say what's happening in New York isn't significant and what Arthur's done isn't intriguing and quite impressive with his case. It's just Harvey's been in the news now for 5+ years on this. I think people are a little fatigued with it.
Yeah, I mean, I will tell you, and this is going to sound horrible, whatever. I don't care anymore. I mean, when he was wheeled out in his wheelchair and the way he looked, I do feel like a jury might be sympathetic to that. He looked so bad. And the way I was right behind him, and the way he looked at me, it was very sad. It was very pathetic. And like, there was no one to look at. It wasn't like, oh, he's looking at me. It was just like nobody was there. So you could kind of tell he's like looking around. We locked eyes, and he just had this like embarrassed, ashamed. It was bizarre. It was a bizarre thing. And I'm close with the defense team. So I do have this I'm only hearing one side a lot of the time. However, I did pay attention to the the LA trial, and obviously what I could of the New York trial. And I think things are going to be a lot different, a lot. And Judge Farber seems very fair in his rulings. He did reverse a ruling yesterday where Jessica Mann, she will be able to use the term force in her testimony. He initially had ruled that she couldn't, and then he reviewed some stuff. So look, Sinead, I get this. But listen to this. No sympathy whatsoever. Abused his position of power for far too long. 100%. He abused it. I guess my whole thing, without having heard anything in this trial yet, is it criminal? Like, did he forcibly hold these women down and grape them? Or is it this term, an abuse of power, where he's like, sleep with me or you can't have this role in this movie type of thing? And these women are it's not fair for someone to, you know what I'm saying, for someone to say that or to do that. But I'm just saying, is it criminal? And that's what I'm saying before going to trial. So please don't hate me for that. Please, please, please. Do you know what I'm saying, Jarrett? Please say something. Please back me up.
What I think, I'm not saying anything. No, I'm just, you dug yourself into this. You could dig yourself out. Here's what, and I was at the Cosby trial and I followed Weinstein. When you have a mountain, for Cosby, there was literally a parade of women coming in and out of that courtroom, all who were accusers. Okay. Yeah. And Harvey Weinstein, same thing. Like, the thing about it is this. I have my opinion. I believe he abused his power. I believe there were violent rapes, not beyond consensual, that were forceful, aggressive.
You mean California? I'm talking about New York.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
I'm not talking about California. Okay.
Right. So my opinion of Weinstein is fixed. And again, I don't have a lot of sympathy for him, but look, it's a little different when you're in the courtroom and you're looking somebody in the face. They get humanized. I get it. But at the same time, it's hard to ignore the power he enjoyed for so long and how he abused it. And, pay the consequences for our actions.
Right. And like I said, I don't necessarily know. We haven't seen what they're going to present to us in this trial. And I 100% was not talking about California survivors and that I was not talking about that. But I guess no, some of these women, I have seen a lot of some of the evidence and some of what they put forth in the first trial, and it's interesting. And I think that the experts that they're going to present about how some women or people, I guess you could say, in general, handle things, because like I think I mentioned this to you, they have emails from these women to him after the alleged grapes occurred, and they're like, oh, I can't wait for you to meet my mom, type of thing. So it's interesting, but I think that the state is going to put forth these experts that'll say, well, this is how certain women justify things in their head or whatever.
Well, and I've seen that too. I had a woman who was abused by a man 30, 40 years ago, her stepfather, and then we go to trial and they're presenting pictures of him walking her down the aisle or other things. And life is complicated. There's a psychology to that, a little beyond what my training is, but I've seen it. No one ever acts perfectly in an imperfect situation. They just don't. Right. And it doesn't mean it didn't happen. Doesn't mean that that's not suspicious. It doesn't mean a jury's going to be like, what the hell's going on here? Why would you do that to somebody who hurt you? But that's a hill they're going to, I mean, the prosecution's going to have to not justify that. They're going to have to explain it. Where does this come from?
Right. And you're so right. Like, there's no easy answer there. There's no behavior you're supposed to follow. But what went down yesterday, I mean, you saw some of my video and I put a short clip out, but they most likely, it seems, will have Harvey testify this time around. And I think it's a good idea because he does want to share his side and explain. And there are some things that are so weird that I would love to hear explained. I would love it. I'm going to stop because I'm not sure what is out there just yet, but I'm interested for him to take.
So the only thing I'll say to him, not testifying didn't work out for him. So, this is somebody who's no dummy. So, I mean, let him get on the stand. It didn't work out for Cosby either. So, and we'll see what happens with Diddy ultimately. But the one thing I'll say, and I noticed that Arthur Aidala, Harvey's attorney in New York, colleague and friend, he's filed a motion to exclude one of the ADAs. And based on your interview with Arthur yesterday and your reporting on this, my understanding is the ADA met with one of the victims years prior in her capacity as an ADA, and he's saying she should be excluded. Now, my experience with that, oftentimes when cases are being put together or being looked into over a period of years, you're going to have those meetings. How you insulate yourself from what Arthur's doing is you have third parties present. So Arthur is basically taking the position she has made herself a witness by taking that statement and making notes. My question, and I don't know as I sit here, was there a detective present? Was this some kind of a trial prep or grand jury prep, or was it one-on-one?
I can tell you it was, and maybe I wasn't clear. I think I went over this at the end of the live, but it was a civil suit. She was filing a civil suit and she was being represented by Wigdor, that firm that has a lot of the Diddy clients. And this Shannon Lucy, the ADA, was on this Zoom call taking notes, I guess. So then 4 years later, when they wanted this woman for the grand jury, that's when Shannon Lucy came back in and said, okay, now we're going to prep you for the grand jury testimony, blah, blah, blah. And Arthur's team is saying, no, this is not cool. That is a total conflict here. And I mean, I kind of didn't understand, I guess, why, because the prosecution, they were like, well, you guys have had all this info for over a year. Why are you doing this a week before jury selection? It seems tactical. And I was sitting in my seat and I'm like, it does kind of seem tactical. I mean, it does. And
well, that's fine. I mean, he could be trying to kneecap the prosecution. But the other thing is he's saying in your capacity, that particular interview was civil in its nature. It was not your official role as an ADA. We may need to know what she said in that particular proceeding. You're a witness to that. You've made yourself a material witness to the case. I don't know what's going to happen. I've seen it happen before. I've had lawyers thrown off cases on the other side because they didn't have a witness present. So we'll see. I mean,
she was there. She was trying to give context. She was like, just so you know, like she was sitting there, and I was like, I didn't realize at first that she was at the table. So it was really interesting, I think, to be there. And I really enjoyed the judge. I have to say, like, I should be doing this more, where I sit in on some of these pretrial decisions. And one of Arthur's attorneys, I don't know if you've heard of him. His name is Mike Sabella. He was amazing. Like, he was an amazing defense attorney. And I'm like, man, we should get this guy on some TV trials. He just had that, presence. He had that, like, I'm going to command the room. It was pretty nice to watch.
So, and he works with Arthur now. I think I've seen him on some of Arthur's social stuff.
He just joined. I interviewed him after. He said he just joined the case, and I think he's got a separate law firm, but he does partner up with.
I certainly know his name. Well, look, I mean, they're going to have to bring it. I think ultimately it's going to come down to what the nature of that meeting was, what was said, what does Arthur hope to get out of that ADA, whether or not she's going to be allowed in or not. Hard to predict, but I get what he's trying to do. I mean, it is concerning, and it could be tactical. So,
yep. And they said, the state was like, if they kick off Shannon Lucy, we want a 60-day continuance. Oh my God. I thought Harvey is ready to freaking keel over and die, literally. And like, they stood up and they're like, no. This goes as planned. And I think that Judge Farber was also like, yeah, no, I've already gone through my calendar. He seemed really organized. I mean, just really good. So
that would suggest to me he's not gonna grant that request. He wants this trial to go.
Yeah, he does. But I think he was heavily weighing the defense's argument 100%. And also the state was like, well, give us a day to go over all this. And Farber was like, dude, take the lunch and go over it. He was not having it. He was not gonna drag this out. So okay. I guess we can put a pin in Harvey. As of right now, jury selection starts next week. I will definitely, if you guys are interested, I'll be going down to cover it. Probably not every day, but I'm so interested in opening statements, obviously Harvey's testimony, some of the witness testimony, and who are supposed to be called complaining witnesses, by the way, not survivors, accusers, none of that in this trial.
Well,
crazy.
Look, let me say this. If we're going to talk about words in that courtroom, and we'll maybe put a pin in that too, but we're going to talk about Kohberger today. And one of the big fights yesterday was whether or not the word sociopath, psychopath, how people, and you may think like, well, what's the big deal? We're all adults here. Words are landmines in those courtrooms. You could create a mistrial by saying one thing. So think about, you have a job. You may be thinking something. You may be emotional and say something you don't expect to say. All of a sudden, you blow the whole case up and you create a mistrial. So what's being litigated in Kohberger now, Kohberger, we talked about, the knife's been found, the balaclava mask has been now found. Now we're getting down to the nitty gritty. What are you going to be allowed to say inside that courtroom? His mental health has been thrown into this now. The claim of autism, which we predicted was going to go from the penalty phase and find its way into the guilt phase, has done that. Now, the defense attorneys are saying, do not use the words sociopath, psychopath, and prosecutors wouldn't be using those words. They're very dangerous to use those kind of inflammatory, prejudicial words. They may think it, the jury may think it, but they're being very, very protective of, and it's best to get the judge to rule on these things now. So if that landmine is triggered, we have a ruling that says, Judge, you already said they can't say this. We're done. Mistrial.
Right. And I was talking about this last night with the ladies of Mother Knows Death. They love all of the Kohberger hearings. They're like you, they're very dialed into that. And I needed some context on the autism aspect of this, because I was not clear that the defense pretty much concocted autism for Bryan Kohberger. I was kind of thinking, okay, has he had this his entire life? If he has, and he's dealt with this. I don't think it's right that they should exclude it. However, with the context, they were like, no. The defense basically just made this up. They didn't really, but you know what I'm saying. It was kind of like, let's grasp at straws here. And then I was like, okay, I think that makes sense. They would exclude that. But I don't think in any other case, if a person did have diagnosed, or however far they were on the spectrum or whatever, that should come into play for the penalty phase. And I don't like the guy. I'm not trying to help the guy out. Like
it has to come into play. You have to consider that as a mitigating. Now, Idaho law is a little weird on mental health. Right. Because Idaho law, it's not even clear if insanity is a defense in the state of Idaho. So, but but here's the point. Across the country, mitigating factors are considered and weighed against aggravating factors in support of death. One of the major things, there's always this catch-all provision at the end. You can consider their education, their background, this, that. There's this catch-all. Any other relevant evidence that would weigh against the imposition of death. That's where all that stuff comes in. You talk about a defendant's mental health. Brian Kohlberger's defense team, here's what they're doing. And first of all, the guy's weird. Okay, whether or not it goes to, he's been weird since the jump here, right? Everything about him is weird. So that's my diagnosis. But if that coincides with, he may have OCD tendencies, right? There was a rumor his neighbor said the guy used to run the sweeper all night and things like that, right? And then here's what they're going to try to do, though. They're going to take all of those quirks and those tendencies, and they're going to explain away the more problematic behavior in the weeks following the killing. Number one, the incessantly cleaning the car, bagging the garbage. And the other thing they're going to try to say is his odd affect in the courtroom, his strangeness, his lack of emotion, when he was arrested across the country in Pennsylvania, and he acts strangely. He doesn't react to it. They're saying this is all part of OCD, ADHD, and autism, the fact that he's on the spectrum. They're using that to explain Kohlberger's, at a minimum, lack of emotion. That's what they're doing here.
Right. And I that's fine. I don't agree that should be allowed. I just don't. I thought it was much different, where I was like, well, I think I love what you just said. Yep, there you go. MJ says, Jarrett, preach. That's so true. And by the way, side note, nothing to do with this case, but it's MJ's birthday tomorrow. So happy birthday, MJ. Yes, I say this because we don't have a stream tomorrow. So Aries season, MJ Aries, there you go. And we love you. So happy birthday. So no, what you said makes sense. I just think it's so important to have context, because
it is. And here's the thing, though. You know who else doesn't react when he gets arrested? The guy that butchered 4 people. Okay, so that's the other. I'd be like, yeah, okay. He's got ADHD. He's got OCD. He also hacked these people to death. Right? And you would have normal people, I'm sorry, don't do what he did. Normal people don't stalk 4 strangers or 1 stranger if there was a targeted victim. Okay, not normal. No, none of what Kohlberger did here he's strange.
And also, this could mean nothing, right? I keep thinking about the selfie. He is not, for everything we know about this guy, he is not the type of guy who would snap that's not him. It's just I don't know many men also that are big on selfies, and that could mean nothing, but the selfie to me is a very basic B thing to do, basic college girl thing to do. Was he mocking what he did? People are saying, oh, he's proud of what he did. He's documenting this. I took it as is he almost making fun of Kaylee, you know what I'm saying? Is this?
Well, I think not only was it a selfie, it was a thumbs up. What is he celebrating at 9:30 in the morning on November 23rd, right? And then here's the other thing: the guy is he's described as charm bombing people and awkward and a creep. He can't read social cues. If you watch when Kohlberger was pulled over by the police in his speeding ticket, not after the murders. He doesn't know when to shut up. He keeps digging himself. He can't read socially. He's awkward. Okay. And that may be the byproduct of some kind of a diagnosis. I looked at this guy from when this started, and our buddy Jay, I would say to Jay, like, this guy, you know, like I would compare him to people we know. He's Koberger-esque. He's this. He's like, because you would see this strangeness in this guy. I could tell you what Brian Koberger's apartment looked like from before they ever walked in it. I could tell you he drove a Hyundai Elantra because that's the car that guy would drive, right? Like if Brian Koberger had like a souped up F-150, I'd be shocked, right? Because everything about this guy is very flat. From his clothes to his affect to his car to his apartment to his life, everything is flat.
Yeah, and it's just interesting because I feel like the way he looks and his face and just everything about him is really going to he's going to be a chilling sight to a jury. That there's not many defendants I feel like that you would audibly gasp, you know, at just seeing the sight of them and thinking about their alleged crimes. And he is one of those people that you're just like, oh, like it would be
and he's
shocking.
Not a bad looking person. He's a normal looking.
So weird. Like
it's just behind his eye. You see it in his eyes. He's got like he's got like Manson lamps, you know, or like a look like Michael Myers. Like you just see it. It's the creep vibe. He gave serial killer vibes. Like any woman who's ever encountered this guy, and again, not to plug Howard Bloom's book again, but he does a great job of like, did you ever hear anybody come out and say like, boy, Brian was a great guy. We loved him. Nobody has said, they've all said he's strange. You
just almost did the voice. Brian's a great guy. He's a wonderful man. Yeah, he's a wonderful
Well, nobody said that. So the voice didn't happen, but like no one has said that. It's like,
nope.
So
not one person. I guess that's why I saw the news about, okay, you can't use psychopath, can't use sociopath. I'm like, cool. The jury has eyeballs. They have ears.
Right.
They don't need to hear those words. They don't need to hear them at all. But speaking of defendants who I guess have questionable social skills, I think we could transition that into Karen Reed with an update on, I should also make the banners a little bit different. On an update where they actually need one more juror. I don't know if you were aware of that. As of today, one more juror. And then
which would be number 16.
Yes. And so I'm thinking, opening statements will happen Monday or Tuesday. I can't believe this is happening again. I mean, and I also saw the Supreme Court. Yeah, no more. Sorry. I mean, it's not closed forever. Am I right? The Supreme Court.
No, in fact, April 25th, there's another petition on the double jeopardy that's coming. So the Supreme Court, you don't automatically, and for our listeners and viewers, when you appeal to the Supreme Court, it's not automatic. They don't automatically hear your case. So sometimes they rule that this case will not be heard and effectively are affirming the lower court. Like nothing's changing. Like they won't look at this. They're not going to change it. On April 25th, they are going to decide whether or not to take up the double jeopardy argument, saying, and the argument there is the jury wanted to acquit her on murder in Massachusetts, and she should not be retried. That's double jeopardy. I don't know where that's going to go. I don't think that's going to work.
Yeah, I still am, I'm still bothered by the whole thing. And I forget where I saw it. I think it was Fox News. They're on Instagram. They're doing these reels where they have different like legal experts or law enforcement experts, share their take on things. And they did have this legal expert that really came down on Cannoni about her jury instructions again, and how we might not be, or I should say we, but they might not be in the place they're at if and we've talked about this and people disagree like crazy on the instructions here. But this lawyer, and I forget his name, he just said, no, if Judge Cannoni would have been clear on these instructions, we wouldn't be here. So, and that's where I go back.
How instructions should work, right? There is a binder that judges have. This is why it would be boring sometimes, I think, to be a judge, because there's a script. There's a literal script. They have a binder and they read the instructions, okay? Now, lawyers fight. They'll be like, oh, this is the instruction I want you to give on self-defense because it's more tailored to our case. Anytime you deviate from that, okay, these written out instructions that you're supposed to read, you run the risk. Canoni's instructions were confusing. And I thought that the arguments the defense was raising, I mean, that was as bad as arguments got in this case in trial one, if you remember, because the last thing you want to do is confuse a jury. Like it's not enough just to say, we believe Karen did this. You got to say, does what you believe comport with the specific set of instructions you've been given?
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
And I would say always at the end of my cases, I would say you're about to be instructed on the law, and it takes a while when they read everything. I would say, but it comes down to 3 or 4 questions. I stole this off John Edwards. Remember John Edwards when he ran with John Kerry?
Yeah.
He used to say, it comes down to 4 basic questions. Are you able to pay your bills? Are you able to sit at the kitchen table, right? So I would always say at the end of my cases, this comes down, all the law you're going to listen to. This is why people don't like lawyers. It comes down to 4 questions. Do you believe she was threatened? Do you believe she needed to defend herself? Do you believe she did this? Like if the answer is no, yes, she's guilty. Like I would always try to sum it up that way.
Yeah.
That was my own experience. So they get confusing.
Crazy. Go ahead. Sorry.
I said they get confusing. So Canoni's instructions I thought were confusing.
No, they were, especially because, we heard from the jurors themselves and it's just, it sucks. It's like, it's a weird situation. Or I shouldn't say weird. That's not the right word, but it's a situation at this point. And I have just, last night where I was at a dinner with a few people in the crime community. If you saw on my Twitter, Jarrett ditched us. He couldn't come in from Pennsylvania. So we missed him.
I was there this weekend in my defense. I was in the city this weekend, so I couldn't come back.
I get it. It's a long drive, or it's not long, but it's annoying to do a few times. So we did miss you, but it's funny. So people that discuss this case, it seems like many people agree that the murder charge is too much. And I've said this over and over, and I'm not a lawyer. And I'm just like, I just never thought of her as this murderer that the state of Massachusetts needs to spend all of this time and resources and money and all this effort on. It's just become more than that at this point. I think it's become more than putting Karen Reed away to them. It's like the whole situation. It's like, them versus us, where it's like, do you know what I'm saying? It's like corruption.
Yeah, but what I think, and I've been thinking about this a lot. I mean, as I sit here today, I feel like I know more about Karen Reed's case than when we've ever discussed it. Yeah. And I am following it this time. I think it's a mistake for the defense to argue that he went in that house. I think it's a mistake. I think that the Bryans, I think that this is all crazy. I think there's enough reasonable doubt in the problems of the investigation that you can say, look, the jury can go home the night they let her go and say, this wasn't even an issue of whether she did it or meant to do it. We could not get there beyond a reasonable doubt. Remember, the vote was 9-3 in the last trial. They did not buy that John O'Keefe went in that house. They didn't buy it.
Right.
And so it almost looks like you're trying to sell them a bill of goods by putting the Alberts and the Bryans on trial. It's unnecessary. This third party culpability that's kind of hanging out there. I know it's like throw as much at the wall and see what sticks. To me, if these guys are laser focused this time on the reasonable doubt, on the fact that it wasn't, that Karen, the police didn't do an investigation, all this stuff, she could walk.
Jarrett, I agree with that to a point, I guess. I have said this. I never thought that this conspiracy was what I never truly understood all the aspects of that, right? I don't. But I think about these things, and I've said it before. I've said this. I don't know if the witnesses were planning an orgy. This is just me talking out of my, just stay with me for a minute. When you see what went on with, and I'm not talking just the butt dials. I'm talking about just certain things when they were acting strange. Their statements, the guy, the man, he never went in. All these things, and then Brian Higgins maybe not being truthful about being on the phone after leaving the Canton, whatever it was. maybe they were planning to have some huge orgy that night, trade spouses, who the hell knows? And that's what they're hiding, right? I don't know. But to me, they were hiding something. And I don't know what it was. I just know that it was something, and I can't ignore that weird feeling, I guess. Not only that, sitting at the table with like Cheryl McCollum last night, all these things, we just keep bringing up these things that don't make sense to us. Like, and again, this is talking about these little things at nauseum, and people go back and forth. But Cheryl, the fact that the cops didn't go inside the house immediately.
That's a problem. That's a problem.
Right. And the Alberts didn't come outside. People have defended the Alberts not coming outside, but I have had a problem with that since the beginning. I have had a problem. Cheryl brought this up, actually. She brought up the fact that you have an officer, a police officer, a beloved police officer. No other officers go to the hospital. Not only that, but no officers have been in the courtroom, Jarrett. How strange is that? Where are all the police officers in court?
You can get, so here's what I think. I think you can get all that in without saying Higgins and Albert killed them. Like, you could say all of this is not good, and it creates doubt. And it's because I believe, yes, something was, these guys were worried about something. Do I think it's because they killed John O'Keefe? No, and that's just, again, I am not as invested as many people out there in this case, but I know you're putting a burden on yourself. The defense kind of has to prove this third party culpability, like beyond a reasonable doubt. There's not a witness that says he walked in that house. How do you get there?
Well, I mean, you could argue,
other than Karen, who's not going to testify.
No, but you could argue that. I mean, there was Brian Higgins' testimony talked about a tall male figure that they're arguing. I mean, whatever. I'm with you. I don't necessarily think that means murder. I've never said these people killed John O'Keefe. I just don't get what they're hiding. I just want to know what the hell they're hiding, because I feel like it's something. But yeah, it could be the fact that they were going to swap wives, and I don't know.
Is somebody suggesting that that's what was going on there?
No, that's what I said. I just said that.
All right, because I was like, I never heard that.
No, I'm thinking of just an example of what you could possibly be hiding.
I don't know. I just think these guys love to drink, and it was after hours, and they wanted to keep the party going before the snowstorm. But the other thing is, that doesn't mean were they involved with a confidential informant? Do they have stuff on their phones they didn't want the other officers to see? I mean, I think there's more of that, but
there you go. That's another thing.
It doesn't bode well for them, though. And again, you could get all that in without saying they're murderers. That's my point.
I'm laughing at myself because the only thing that I could think of that somebody would want to hide is an orgy. I need to get my head out of the gutter. You're like, well, it could be this with a confidence.
Well, there's just no indication there's no indication that that's what was going on with this crew. That's all.
Sorry, let me be clear, guys, before this does become an urban legend and I get in trouble. I was not saying this happened. I was thinking of something they could like an example of something that somebody is hiding. Again, it could be that they have something going on at work they don't want to come out because they're talking about something else. It doesn't have to be an orgy. My brain's in the gutter 24/7 apparently. So, yes.
Well, but I mean, oftentimes that's what people are trying to hide, some kind of sexual proclivity, or, there's money stuff going on. Who knows? But in any event, I don't think that they could make the case for murder against them. The defense is adding to they have no burden. They're creating a burden for themselves. They can do all that, create enough doubt, and Karen Reed, that would benefit her. But that doesn't mean I think she's going to get off. I think murder's an overreach. I
don't see 12 jurors convicting her. I don't. I literally do not see 12 people agreeing that she backed over John O'Keefe in a jealous fit of rage. I don't see that happening. Because I think the real tell here is you ask anybody in this chat, you ask anybody on the street who knows about this case, and everyone's going to give you a different thought.
What if a biomechanical expert? Let me ask you this. What if a biomechanical expert comes in on behalf of the prosecution and says, these injuries are entirely consistent with the following mechanism of injury. John, the glass shatters, cuts his arm. I'm only saying this.
Yeah.
The glass shatters, cuts his arms. The injury to his head is when he impacted the curb, which is right here. And they create almost like a model of how this went down, which is where I think they were missing with Trooper Paul last time. If that happens and they can show this, would that change your opinion?
I mean, I feel like, yes, my opinion could be changed. Actually, let me think about this. Like, you know me, I'm always ready to listen. I'm open to new evidence. If someone comes in and says that, I think, yes, my opinion would sway, but I would go back to maybe thinking about Trooper Paul literally leading the original how do you go from that to that is a big question.
How you do it. So Karen asked the question, who has replaced Trooper Paul? Unfortunately, no one can replace, he's irreplaceable, right? So no one has replaced him because you're stuck with him. You're stuck with him and you're stuck with his testimony. If the prosecution didn't call him in their case in chief, then the defense would call him. So Trooper Paul isn't replaced. What you can do is take his shortcomings as far as an expert and go to the next level. You say, where does Trooper Paul end? Where does a biomechanical engineer, where can someone take issue with the ARCA boys, where they are, what they concluded? That's what we've said since the day we knew this trial was coming. The day of the first mistrial, I said they have to amplify what Trooper Paul said. They're going to find an expert to say that. And I think, and I got a little flack online for saying it. It's like, nobody's ever going to say that. I'm like, come on, they're going to find an expert.
Oh God, you're going to get flack online for anything you say about this. Like I think back, this is just a side note. I've been replaying some of my interviews that I do just in general. I have this habit of where someone will be talking or I'll be talking and I'll go like this and I'll kind of look up or I'll look to the side. I had people say that I was rolling my eyes at people wanting to, remember John O'Keefe and talking about his family. They said I rolled my eyes at his
all
family.
the time I thought you were rolling your eyes when I would say something.
No, I just look up or I look to the side and I'm like, what are you? I just have a weird
Some people,
face.
when they look that way, they could tell they're lying or they're thinking. So you're either lying or thinking.
Well, I feel like I can't be lying if I'm listening to somebody and I'm like that or whatever. It's not, I am thinking.
So
whatever.
you're thinking. That's good.
Okay. So wait, just back to Afton. I said this on my interview with the director of the docuseries. I said, Dr. Scorti-Bello really also kind of swayed me where she's like, I can't conclusively say that he was hit, but the injuries are from it's tough. It's
so
tough.
What Afton said, but again, that would be, can a biomechanical engineer explain the injuries to John O'Keefe through a fall as a result of being impacted by the car? I think and I'm not suggesting that they can. I'm saying you take what you have. You have no choice. You're stuck with what you have. What can somebody with a more advanced ability say about those things? And a bioengineer is not more advanced than a medical examiner, but when they're confronted with the spatial and physical scene, they can conclude different things. That's their training.
Right. Yeah. And I talked about this with Kirk Nurmi about calling Michael Proctor because a lot of people were like, wait, Michael Proctor's on the witness list. Well, yeah, I guess, of course he is, because if the Commonwealth doesn't call him, the defense will certainly call him and make an example out of him. You agree with that?
I had a case where a guy's on my witness list and we couldn't find him. So the investigator calls me, says, I got good news and I got bad news. The good news is I found him. The bad news is he's in jail for murder. So I went, I don't care. We're still calling him. So because he was a material witness, I'm like, well, that's not going to come in. He's getting called.
Wait, oh my gosh. But that looks bad.
Yeah, so
it looks so bad.
Proctor has to be there. All of the sins of trial 1 in this investigation, it's like it's like Police Academy 4. It's like a bad sequel, or 5. It's like, here we go again. It's like, but you're stuck with those details, and you're literally stuck with them. You have a transcript of what happened.
Mm-hmm. Right. No, it's going to be interesting. And I think, like, for me, it's funny because, oh yay, MJ and Sinead members for 8 and 3 months. I so appreciate you guys. No, I think for me, like, I was more willing to change my mind about things after the docuseries, doing some thinking about Karen really saying how much she had to drink and how, I was like, all right, this is where I'm like, this is interesting. But I still go back to, I don't think anything she said necessarily proves that she did it. It just proves it's almost like it's more confusing at this point. It's not that it was ever open.
I
and
always said
shut, but
this case gives you a headache
it
because you
100%.
go one way, immediately you're in the other. Now, what
Yeah.
case does not give you a headache, other than the amount of moving parts, is this week I fell into the world of Lori Vallow.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
I
We can close,
as you know,
everyone. We can close the door on Karen Reed right now. We'll do a quick Lori Vallow.
So Lauren and I do Vinnie Politan on Court TV, and I was unable to do the last times I was invited on. So I said, well, next time I'm going to get on. They said, well, do you know about the Lori Vallow case? And I was like, yeah, sure.
You did.
I knew very.
You're funny.
Let me tell you something. I spent the entire day. I knew a little bit. Lori Vallow is the Doomsday Mom. So
yeah,
she's now on trial for killing Charles Vallow, or Charles.
Vallow.
Charles Vallow. That case is unbelievable. She's defending herself. Her brother shot Charles Vallow in Phoenix, Arizona. Lori was present. Her brother Alex claimed it was self-defense. He is now dead. Everybody in her orbit, with the exception of Chad, her last husband, is dead, including her two young children, her daughter Tylee and her son JJ. If
that was a real eye roll, just so everyone knows, that was a real one.
I mean, it's a horrible. This was a woman who was beautiful, and when I tell you manipulative, and somebody who is both manipulative and manipulated. She was manipulated by this Chad, who found her to be vulnerable. He was this doomsday author. And then Lori Vallow kind of descended into madness. They would declare people as zombies in their life. They were part of this doomsday. I guess it's a cult. It was a cult. It was the Church of Latter-day Saints, but an extreme, like that was their original. They were Mormons originally, but they took this extreme position from the writings of Chad Vallow, and it was awful. It was awful. So, or Chad Daybell, I'm sorry.
Daybell,
Daybell is her last husband and the author. Lori was married 4 times. Her son is interviewed in a documentary I watched. Her
eldest son. It's so that is so sad. And I mean, I actually interviewed her niece a few weeks ago. If anyone caught that, it was really eye-opening, and it was just really sad. Her niece is Krisha K. Easton, and her mom is Kay Woodcock, who's JJ Vallow's grandmother.
And Kay was the one who adopted JJ originally. Yeah. So one of the things that struck me, Karen made a point that in her opening statement, she's running down Vallow saying he left JJ, who's 7 years old, out in the car. I'm like, you had JJ killed. You've been convicted of it. You're going to knock Vallow for leaving him out in the car when he ran back in to get his cell phone? Like, this is the delusional way that she sees the world. However, she made a good appearance in court. I've had defendants defend themselves in court. It gets chaotic. She's composed. She's listening to the judge. I don't know if people realize she is not cuffed. She has an electric belt on her that if she starts acting crazy, they shock her and she's forced.
I didn't know that. That's crazy. Oh my God.
So the jury can't see it, but if she steps out of line, she gets zapped.
So Afton asked, does she have to ask her advisory council a question to get help, or can they tell her when to object? I haven't seen any whispering, but I haven't really been looking. So
she doesn't have to. She can. So they're totally advisory. They're there when she needs them. Now they're going to be used because one of the things that could get a little complicated is she keeps saying the evidence will show this, this, and this. Some of it wouldn't show that. She's going to have to get on the stand. So advisory council may have to question her. That may be where they take a more active role. But an advisory council is there in the event she needs any type of assistance. They could actually, if it goes really bad, just take over, where the judge says, this is crazy. The train's off the tracks. You need to take over at this point. And I had a case where a guy attacked sheriff's deputies that were foreclosing on his house with an axe. And he was an anti-government type guy. And he represented himself, but had standby counsel. And he was just, this guy sees the world one way too. He was delusional and getting crazy. It was one of my first trials ever. But there was advisory counsel who had to take over.
I feel like I've heard or I've seen other lawyers say on X, mainly on X, maybe in some commentary, that they're like, yeah, like it was a bad opening statement. Like she's an idiot and she makes no sense, but also it wasn't that bad, as in like I've seen way worse. And I think people were saying this in the chat, that I think I tweeted this. I was like, I cannot handle her saying her children's names. It drives me insane. She does not deserve to say them. She is a typical narcissist. And she's proving that she's not mentally ill by being, in my opinion, by being so composed and attempting to make sense. But yesterday,
well, she was always composed. Nobody ever said Lori wasn't. Right. She never really acted crazy. I mean, what she says and did were crazy, and she acted crazed, but she was never somebody prone to fits of rage. Like, that's part of the problem. If you listen or see the body cam footage when police would respond, when they were looking for JJ, she plays them like a fiddle. Like, these guys wanted, and they did follow up, but they wanted to believe her. They're like, well, and they didn't believe Charles when he was saying, he didn't necessarily say the right things. He was talking about, he said at some point, she said, I could murder you because you're possessed by this person. But he didn't step on the right, like he was dancing around it when he was making that report. But it is sad. I mean, it is this case, everybody in their life died. Her children, her husband.
It's awful. And I'm so happy that Chad Daybell is facing death, but I wish Lori would face death. I'm kind of annoyed at that. And I know that everybody knows what I'm talking about yesterday with Nancy Joe on the stand. I caught up last night because I was down with the Harvey thing all day. And hey, Dizzy, happy to see Dizzy. But dude, that was amazing when Nancy Joe's like, don't flatter yourself, Lori. And then Lori is all over her for going on a date with a married man. When it's like, Lori, you whore, you are the biggest whore of all. I'm sorry. Like, I don't care. I don't even care how that sounds. You are such a whore. She makes me so mad. So mad. Ugh. Anyway.
Tell us how you really feel about Lori Vallow.
Oh, she's a whore. But really, how long do you see this trial, the Lori Vallow trial, going forward?
You know what? I mean, she's doing 3 life sentences at this point. I don't know. I mean, it's going to go on because we were doing the closing argument show. One of the defense attorneys, and I don't know his name, he's a former police officer, but he took me to task. Like, he was saying there's no evidence of conspiracy. And then we ran out of time. And the point I was trying to make, if I may finish my point, was if you don't believe Alex acted in self-defense, okay, he was serving Lori's interests and the nature of their relationship, the course of their dealing. He was the person that would carry out her, he was her hitman. And how would you prove that? The circumstance itself, through text messages, the fact that he got Lori out of there, he lied, he was covering her tracks. There are text messages I'm not privy to that may suggest even further. You do not, and I'm not suggesting this lawyer didn't know that, but you do not need to prove like there was a handshake agreement. We're going to kill Charles today.
Yeah.
That's not what happened. You can infer an agreement based on their conduct. And the conduct here is Alex kills Charles.
Yeah. Right.
Lori is the beneficiary of the life insurance policy, so she thinks. And he lies about her whereabouts. He gives himself a self-defense claim. Tylee is told to say certain things. She's eliminated from the picture. So when you look at this, you would say this was set in motion by Alex. He lied about it. Lori was the beneficiary. You can infer an agreement. Whether or not they get there, I don't know.
And I don't know this. I did not pay attention to any of the pretrial stuff, or I don't know if I've heard this, but is the state allowed, is Arizona allowed to bring up Idaho, the conviction, or just the fact that she is a
I
convicted?
think
Okay.
no, it would have to have some and those kids were killed after the shooting of Charles. So
Yeah,
I
but
don't know, other than to say there was an effort to absent Tylee from these proceedings because she was present. But here's the thing: both Tylee and Lori and their version of events, which don't jive perfectly, take themselves out of the room when Alex shot Charles. So that's the other thing. What about Alex? Too many coincidences. Is Sinead saying what his death, or what
well,
about him?
yeah, I think definitely too many. I've always thought that Alex was in love with his sister. I know that sounds gross and very like Dexter and Deb Morgan ish, but like it's. Do you see what I'm saying? Does anyone see what I'm saying? Like,
I don't know if he was in love with her. He certainly wanted to please her. He certainly wanted to do her bidding. And look, I mean, like Lori was a manipulative person. Like, so we can't say she wasn't, and she was manipulated by Chad Daybell. So Alex just caught shrapnel in that whole world.
So I guess because I've been doing a lot of research, and I don't want to offend anybody who's Mormon or, a member of the Jesus Christ Church of Latter-day Saints, because I'm not grouping everything together. I'm not. But Utah
At this point, or this episode, starting off with your Harvey comments, go right ahead.
I know. Sorry, I'm so offensive, and I don't mean anything by it. I guess I sometimes I should really write down my thoughts before and try to like say them in a I don't know, whatever, an indifferent type of way, but I can't help myself. Like I said, I hear everybody, I understand everybody, and I love all opinions. But anyway, so the Mormon church, some families, they believed a long time ago that the purer your bloodline was, the higher up you would be in the church. So they would, I don't want to say enforce, but they would encourage incestual relationships or procreating. I don't know how Alex and Lori grew up, but this crossed my mind because I felt like he was in love with her, and I felt like, sure, she, is a manipulator, but yeah, I would not put it past Alex to have.
He ended up getting married. Alex ended up getting married in Las Vegas at one point before he died. I don't know. I mean, who knows? This is the craziest. If this was a movie, you'd walk out. You'd be like, okay, this is crazy.
I know.
And here we go. It's still
crazy.
going. She has another trial on the Bordeaux, the attempted murder or the shooting of Bordeaux coming up too, if that's how you say it. So it was.
Yeah, Brandon Bordeaux. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
My education on Lori Vallow was fast and furious the day we did that show. So I'm still kind of reeling.
You did a great job.
I was laying in bed that night. I was like, what the hell? Like, I woke up this morning free of that burden of knowing this world. Now I'm stuck. Then I tried to watch the Netflix documentary at night. Like, Nicole and I are just getting ready. I was like, oh, let's see. And we watched the video, the closing arguments episode. And Nicole had a lot of questions. I'm like, I can't explain it all. Let's just watch it.
Did you like it? Nicole must have loved that doc.
I just started to watch it, and then I was like, I can't. My head's full of this today. We shut it off. But, so I think we'll watch it. But
Nicole, let me tell you. So Sky Borgman did that doc. She did Abducted in Plain Sight. Remember that one? The Jan Broberg. Oh my God. Sky also did. I interviewed her on my podcast last year. She is such an amazing true crime docuseries director. Probably my favorite, the best there is. She's got a bunch of specials on Max as well. You and Nicole. I know Nicole will literally love this one because it's awful that I'm smiling because it's freaking.
Yeah, we'll have to check it out.
It's well done because it paints Lori out to be the monster that she is. So that's all I'm going to say. But let's go to Kansas moms before we finish, because there has been some new filings. Let me just update this. New filings, and I don't think we went over. Did we go over the testing last week. There's going to be new.
No.
Yeah.
So you emailed me the testing.
I'm going to pull this up really quick. Yeah.
Sure. We'll talk about why that document exists.
So let's go. Okay. So Tiffany requested a continuance for a hearing. So she's not going to court until May now. So that's that.
And that was granted, and the prosecution didn't object to it.
Of course not. Of course, those people did not object to it. Why would they object to anything Tiffany does? I have some thoughts that I've been thinking about lately in terms of Tiffany and the DA and just law enforcement involved in this case.
Boy.
But yeah, whatever. I'm trying to pull up the just shut it. Okay, hold on.
So there's a motion. There was a motion put before the court about and it listed certain items that were going to be examined.
It right here. You see it?
So if you look at this, the district attorney says he's asking the court for allowing the OBI to conduct certain forensic testing. Okay. And why you do this is because these are on certain swabs and stains that were collected. And if you look, there's one from the strap handle, the taser handle. And this isn't the item itself. It's actually the swabs that were taken. The problem is once this investigation or this testing is conducted, the swab itself is destroyed. So there's no more, this evidence is no more, not the taser, the swab. So in order to do that, you have to notify the court. And if you look, all the defendants are listed. Okay. So you're saying it's consumptive testing. It's basically saying we cannot destroy this evidence in testing until the court gives us a green light and we notify all the defendants. So that's what happens. These swabs have been collected. When an agent is applied to them in the testing, they are forever destroyed. So in order to do that, you have to have a hearing and say, Judge, here's the situation. This is what we're looking for in the testing. We're letting the defense know. We'll provide the results of the testing to you. You can have a witness or your own expert be part of the testing, but we need an order giving us the green light or the sign of the cross in the God's Misfits case to do the testing.
Well, wait, so why wasn't this done before? I guess I was confused.
I don't know, other than that they're continuing to conduct testing as things get examined. So maybe I know a lot was gathered here. So they may have asked to do this in the past, but there's additional testing that's going to be done on those swabs, probably DNA testing, I would imagine.
It is
DNA. Yeah, so the swabs are collected by a serologist. So a serologist, and I'm sorry if this is elementary to people, but you get an item, you swab it, that's bagged and collected. Okay. Those folks could say, this is blood. This is human blood. That's as far as they could take it. Then that item is sent on to DNA if a DNA analysis is going to be done. And the item is then ultimately destroyed. So that's what they're looking for. It's called consumptive testing. It consumes the sample.
So is it bad that this swab, like you can't, that's just normal. That's protocol. This swab.
We do know. Yeah, we do. No, it's not. It's just a natural occurrence. Yeah. It's a result of the test. But we do know their DNA was found on several items in the burial site. So this is just more. It looks like it's just going to continue to get worse for these defendants.
Okay, or hear me out, and this is my opinion. Nothing conclusive, my opinion. I mean, I do feel like these items listed, I don't know if they're going to find Tiffany's DNA on any of these items. And I think that's why they want more stuff tested. I swear. I think Tiffany there's something going on here. Again, I'm just guessing, my opinion based on some of the research I've done. And I feel like they're really trying to put Tiffany in a position here as to where she did not physically do anything.
That's okay. That's okay. She's still guilty. So she could have literally sat in the car and watched, based on the fact that she procured the straps. She set this whole thing in motion. She's already confessed. She put this group together. All of those things alone, she's done. I mean, you could say, okay, she didn't. To me, it makes her look worse. It's like she got somebody to do her dirty work. That's how I'd spin it. I'd be like, you know what? You're right. She didn't stab Veronica or Jillian. She had Paul do it, okay? Because he's dim-witted and manipulated by her. That makes her worse. She wasn't.
But guess what? I I personally think that she did do something. I have a very hard time believing that as much as Tiffany hated Veronica, that she just sat there and you know what I mean? And again, I'll say it a million times, my opinion, but I just don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, I have such a
Yeah, I
hard
think you
time that
spin
she,
it, but I think you could spin it either way. I think if she was
yeah,
definitely taunting and acting crazy when it was happening, whether or not she physically did anything, time will tell. It depends. Again, they're gonna plead. They're gonna plead guilty in
you
this
don't
case.
see a trial happening.
No, no,
You don't.
no.
I don't know how I feel about that. I told you. I'm just like, hold on. Let me pull up the I want to pull this up really quick because people were asking about this, the credit report request, and there are two different ones of these filings. Can you just explain what this possibly could mean, the options here, or what you're
Yeah,
thinking?
so it looks, well, it is the district. So the district attorney's office is subpoenaing Tiffany Adams' credit history. And
Mhm.
you may ask, why are we doing that? Your credit, let's say Tiffany didn't disclose that she has certain credit cards or certain accounts that may reveal purchases that were made. Okay. When you get a credit history, all of that information is on there. So if they say, oh, we have Tiffany's Discover card records, okay, but a credit report would say she also has an American Express, and we didn't know
Okay.
about that, then they could dig deeper. Were there purchases? Were the tasers purchased on this account? So I would think the only reason you would need Tiffany Adams' credit report is you're looking for accounts or credit cards that were not provided or revealed in the investigation. So you're making sure you have all that.
Okay. Uh I I think my problem with these motions and with this case is I guess my bias in thinking that the state does not have the uh the best intentions. And again, this is my opinion, this is my problem. So when I see motions like this, I'm thinking to myself, well, what do they know? What has Tiffany told her buddy? You know what I mean? Literally her buddy. Do you know what I'm saying? And please talk me down from this, like that, and tell me that
Well,
I'm
I
crazy.
mean, what could it be? I mean, what could it be other than they're trying to find purchases she made in furtherance of this conspiracy,
Or they're trying to prove that
or
she didn't. Like,
transactions? Did she pay Paul? Was there a payment somewhere? And the only way to know for sure or to close the door on that is to do a deep dive into her finances. And it's hard to hide certain finances from a credit reporting agency. Like, you could say, well, I don't have an account with this bank, but I have an account with this one. When the credit report is run, credit cards in particular pop up. Okay.
mhm.
So that is your credit reports, your credit lifeline at the time. And it's going to reveal accounts and certain credit she has. So they're looking for something, clearly. I don't know what the
Yeah.
sinister, I don't know. I know what you're saying and I know what you think about this case. I don't know why they would be looking in that direction if it was in
Okay.
furtherance of some pro Tiffany thing, if that doesn't talk you off the ledge.
No, I want to hear that. I need you to balance me out when it comes to this case. I swear I really do, and I appreciate that because I hate the way that my brain thinks about this case. I need someone like you to be like, okay, I
Well,
hear
I'm
what you're
not
saying.
being naive or even like, I'm not even giving them the benefit of the doubt. I don't know why they would want that for any other reason. I mean, they're not giving
Right,
her a loan. You know, why else
right.
would they know whether or not she's creditworthy?
Yeah, I guess I just you as long as you know what I'm saying and how I'm like, well, I feel like there's some kind of communication that's possibly or maybe they're just giving her a heads up or something. This is what we're gonna do. I don't know. I don't know. I do have to get it out of my head though, because it's messing with the way that I cover the case and the way I think about it. And maybe that's good. Maybe it's not. I don't know yet.
I
But
think in the end, and I hate to burst anybody's bubble expecting a huge trial out there, every one of them is going to plead guilty for their role. And they could come in and say whatever they want. They're gone. And the key is going to be, they're locked away and the key will be thrown away forever. The inescapable fact here is you have two essentially innocent victims who are gone from their families and children forever, and these individuals don't give a shit. And one murder alone is going to lock them up for the majority of their lives. 2, you're done forever.
Yeah, and someone had asked about this civil case with Veronica's family. I don't have any updates on that. And Chop
Liver saying he thinks the credit report is something to do with the civil case, but it's done under the criminal case. So if the civil case was wanting that information, they could subpoena that in the civil case. This is the actual state that's making this request. So good thought, and certainly whether or not she has accounts and money anywhere, So
yeah, I was thinking that too. Like I think that would it's 2 separate cases, but yeah, I see what you're saying. I mean, yeah, I just hope that the families are in communication with the DA's office. And again, I've talked about this, that they are just letting them know, at least if, they're talking about a deal. I have spoken to a few family members and I don't think they're okay with the deal. And I haven't spoken to, a lot of them. I'm just saying the ones that I have, I don't think they feel like that is justice. And what is justice with this case anyway? What is it? I feel like part of justice, part of getting justice, is also exposing the alleged corruption and really helping out this community so this doesn't happen again to people that are possibly going through these situations in family court. And I just think it's going to be a long road. And yeah, I think that I need to do like a clear cash refresh.
The vehicle to expose any of that corruption is a civil case. I would not mess around with the murder case.
What? Say it again. Oh, you're saying in general.
The vehicle to expose any corruption in the family court or wherever is the civil case. Once they're locked away and the criminal case is over.
Yeah. No, you're right. So should I stop talking about it?
No, and that's not to say you're invested in this thing. I know, and I know you have boots on the ground out there. I'm just saying that, look, you got an airtight case against these people. Move, get them done, lock them up. Civil case, let them figure the rest of it out.
You're right. No, you're right. And it's funny because Nighthawk, you're right. They just seem like they keep pushing this back because I'm sure the Texas County Jail is pretty comfortable where they are. I'm sure, they have it pretty good there. Why would they want to go to trial, get convicted, and go off to whatever state prison they'll be sent to? I mean,
you can only push it off so far. So eventually we'll get there.
Yeah. All right. Well, what's your deal for next week? Are we good? I'm good next week.
I think we're good. Yeah, I'm around.
Yeah. Okay. So everyone, bear with us, as sometimes our schedules are weird. So usually we do Wednesdays. You guys know that we've been. I'm not a
full-time true crimer like some people on this live stream. I happen to have to work and practice law. It's like there's a note on my door. Like my staff is out here. It says, "Do not disturb recording for an hour." It's like when I come out of here, it's just like so-and-so called. This is so I actually have to practice.
Get back to work. Well, you need to come visit me. Like this is
we will come ridiculous. Out. I want to come out. I'm thinking maybe come out and see some of the Harvey stuff. Maybe we'll come out and see that.
Oh my God, that would be great because I am planning to get with. I've spoken to Arthur and some of his team, and I will be getting with the defense pretty much any time that I go down to the courthouse. We'll be doing a video after. So
tell Arthur if he'll have another lawyer in the room, I'd love to come over and say hello. So
of course. Are you kidding me? He loves you.
And his hat looked great. Tell him the blue hat looked great yesterday. That's something.
His stupid signature look. I cannot. I mean, his dad did that. It's just so, whatever. All right, guys. So there's a lot going on today. Daybell trial, hopefully the last day of Karen Reed jury selection. And so thank you all for listening and watching. And MJ, we love you. Happy birthday. Carrie, thank you so much. I love this. I love being a stay-at-home mom with a side of true crime sleuthing. Perfect life. I love that. All right, Jarrett, I will talk to you later. Bye, guys.
Take care. Bye, everybody.
Happening. You're trying to figure out ultimately what is.
It's still a mystery as to why it took them